The US government has denied this for decades. But according to multiple insiders, something massive is buried beneath Alaska. Not a base, not a weapon, a pyramid. In 1959, an engineer named M.B. Johnson received a call that would change everything. He was no stranger to secrecy. During World War II, he had already worked on sensitive military projects for the Navy. But this felt different from the start. He was flown out from Omaha, Nebraska, all the way to a remote airstrip in Alaska. No explanations, no briefing. As soon as he landed, he was escorted onto a bus. The windows were completely blacked out. Inside, a handful of other engineers and technicians sat in silence. No one knew where they were going. No one knew what they had been recruited for. The bus started moving, heading east. For hours, it kept going. After the war, MB worked alongside teams connected to Bell Labs, originally formed from the engineering division of Western Electric and backed by AT&T. This wasn't ordinary work. It was cutting-edge, classified, experimental. After nearly 6 hours of rough travel, the bus finally came to a stop. The doors opened. There was no facility, no buildings, no visible base, just a small isolated concrete structure, barely bigger than a storage shed. That was it. The group was directed inside. Once everyone was in, the officers followed and sealed the door behind them. A button was pressed, and suddenly, the floor dropped. It wasn't a building. It was an elevator. As they descended, the temperature began to shift. Still cold, but no longer brutal. Eventually, the descent stopped. The gate opened, and they stepped out. They began walking. The place was massive, far larger than anything visible on the surface. As they moved deeper inside, the officer leading the group raised his voice. "Before your orientation begins, you'll get a look at the project." After several turns, they reached the end of the corridor. And there it was, a 15 feet tall door, wide enough to drive a vehicle through. Solid steel. The door began to open. As the opening widened, the group stepped forward. They walked into a massive underground cavern. And in that moment, all the secrecy finally made sense. At the center of the cavern stood something impossible. Dark, massive, perfectly shaped. The officer turned to them, almost with pride, and said, "Gentlemen, welcome to the Black Pyramid." In September 1989, Doug Mutschler reported for duty. He served as a counterintelligence officer at Fort Richardson, just outside Anchorage, Alaska. His role involved investigating espionage and potential threats, so naturally, his first stop was the map room. Alaska covers nearly 700,000 square miles, making it one of the largest regions in the United States. Doug spread several maps across a large central table and began studying them carefully. Mountain ranges, rivers, lakes, remote towns, everything appeared normal. Until something didn't. On a map of Denali National Park, he noticed a small section, barely the size of his thumb, completely blank. No markings, no data. Curious, Doug grabbed a magnifying glass. About 60 miles west of Mount McKinley, a label stood out. This area not surveyed. That didn't make sense. Every part of Alaska had been mapped in detail. How could an area remain undocumented? 3 years later, he would understand why. It was late 1992. Doug was off duty with several soldiers when someone turned up the television. A local news broadcast reported an underground nuclear test conducted by China. The shockwaves had traveled across the Earth's crust, reaching Alaska. But that wasn't the surprising part. Seismic analysis revealed something unexpected beneath central Alaska. A massive structure. A pyramid. Buried roughly 100 feet underground and larger than the Great Pyramid of Giza. Approximately 550 feet tall. Doug felt a chill. Back in his quarters, Doug prepared to record the late-night broadcast. He needed confirmation. But when the 11 o'clock news aired, the story was gone. No mention. Nothing. The next day, using his credentials, he visited the news station. The station manager denied everything. There had never been such a story, he said. Doug stood there, confused. Dozens had seen it. Yet now it was being erased. As he turned to leave, a young employee quietly approached him. Nervous, he spoke in a low voice. The story about the underground pyramid was real. It had aired earlier, but shortly after, 2 men in black suits arrived. They questioned the station management. Hours later, the report was removed. All footage confiscated. The explanation? National security. The nuclear test, the pyramid, everything. They were ordered to forget it. Doug understood what that meant, so he didn't push further. Later that night, Doug told some of the guys in the unit what happened at the TV station, and they were like, "What do you mean they didn't run it? We watched it." He was frustrated, but there was no way to get more information. But he didn't forget. A year later, Doug was transferred to Fort Meade in Maryland, home of the National Security Agency. There, he found access to something valuable: archives. Rows upon rows of classified files. Doug asked for general information about archaeological sites in Alaska. Nothing specific. The archivist handed him a reference. Doug found the files. The Black Pyramid files. But before he could read them, two men approached. They told him he didn't have clearance. Doug tried to explain, but they already knew what he was looking for. He was ordered to leave. As he did, one of the men muttered something unsettling. "They don't want anyone interfering with it." Doug said nothing after that, until he left the military. Then he told his story. According to him, the pyramid was real. When Doug shared his account, he contacted Linda Moulton Howe, an investigative journalist known for exploring unexplained phenomena. She verified his military records. Then others came forward. But how much of this is real? There are inconsistencies. Doug's timeline doesn't fully align with known nuclear tests. No confirmed seismic data supports the discovery. No physical evidence has been presented. And yet, unexplained electromagnetic anomalies have been reported in Alaska. Thousands of disappearances occur in the region, and sightings of unidentified objects are unusually frequent. So what is really buried beneath the ice? A classified military installation? An ancient structure? Or something far beyond anything we understand? Unfortunately, I don't have the answers. I'm just showing you the facts. What you choose to believe is entirely up to you. Stay curious. Until next time, peace.